Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new video, and welcome to Sparrow Hill, one of the more famous landmarks here in Moscow. And I've actually come to a transport rally here on Sparrow Hill. You can see right behind me Moscow State University, very beautiful part of Moscow to come for a walk. And I thought we'd go check out this transport rally and see what it's like and just enjoy the afternoon here in Moscow. If you might be a long-time follower of the channel, you might remember about 2 months ago I was here in this exact same spot and they had a motorbike rally going on which was dedicated only to motorbikes. And now today they've actually got a transport museum rally, and they brought pretty much most or all of their vehicles from the Moscow Transport Museum here to Sparrow Hill and to the grounds of the university for everybody to come and have a look at. This is a completely free event to attend, so I thought I'd come along today and have a look at some of these vehicles. And I actually have literally just walked in, so I'm not too sure what to expect or what to see. So let's go check it out together. The one thing that is really cool though is a lot of the vehicles have actually got the doors open and you can actually go on board and sit in them and reminisce about maybe a bus that you caught when you were very young. And all these young kids probably don't remember these models of buses. And there's buses in some very different condition. Perhaps they're in the middle of restoring them. Or this is just how all Russian buses look. And this is really the face of Russian transport, to see these rusted buses. And these are the only buses that we catch in Russia. There's no other types on the road. Imagine if I had this as the thumbnail of the video and everybody thought that this is the only type of buses that exist. And actually have a look at the one next to it. Absolutely pristine. Wow. And they're letting people go on board and actually have a look around. And all the people that are very eager and lining up to have a look at them. Now the actual grounds where we are here is actually very large and there's a lot of things to see and to cover. But what I'll try and do is just highlight a few really cool things, and then we won't end up with a 4-hour video. We'll have something a little bit shorter. They do actually have these plaques by each of the buses, which is really nice if you want to learn a little bit about which model it is. And I'm sure there's a lot of transport buffs here who already know about these different models and maybe even caught them at some point. Maybe they were in the city where they're from. Not necessarily all of these are only from Moscow. Some of them would have come from the regions as well. It's bright green. Wow. As I walk around, I'm always just wowed by all the things that I see. And this is one of the older public buses from 1975, and this is actually from Latvia. And check it out, it's essentially a minibus and a few seats, nothing overly spectacular. And they've actually got one of the newer models from the 1990s right here, and actually in a lot of cities in Russia these are still fully in operation. So it's just interesting how they've got the past and the present right here next to each other. How fun is that? Depending on what order you watch my videos on the channel, this one might be either before or after a video about Moscow trams. And that was literally yesterday in Moscow. They had a tram display or parade of trams in the center of Moscow. And then this is the next day basically. So maybe you can watch that afterwards, or you're watching that before now. And there's also a whole lot of cars here as well and other vehicles, which is super interesting to have a look at. I'm fairly sure they've got a lot of the models sorted out by the different brands of vehicles, and these are all of the Moskvich. Now I get a lot of flack for saying that word wrong. Basically a car that was produced in Moscow, supposedly for native people of Moscow, but these were driven all around Russia for a lot of years, and some amazing examples of them as well. And it's just so cool to see them. Probably they've even got them laid out by year of manufacture. You see how many people are here. It's a huge territory where they've actually got this set up. So it's perfect to do it in a place like this because they can really spread them out a lot. How cool. And all the different models. Now, lots of people of course want to take photos and videos just like I am, so it's just a matter of being respectful for everybody here. I think a few of these might have been at the tram parade yesterday. There was a few cars there, but not too many. So possibly some of them might have made their way to this display as well. How nice are these cars? And they've all got license plates on them, so they're all fully road legal and drivable on the roads here in Russia. Amazing. There is also a flea market here as well. And you know how much I love to come and do and show flea markets in Moscow and walk around all the different stands with different things from really different time periods in Russia. Now ideally at a transport rally you'd expect to see a little bit more transport related things, but perhaps it's more of a retro style flea market. These are cool. I think they've got some magnets and model vehicles. Wow, these are really cool. Yuri Gagarin right here. Check that out. I need some new magnets for my fridge. Get rid of all the ones from the places and try to get something a little bit more Russian related. All sorts of little things and curios. Is that the right word for them? It's always hard to get up close. And there's a guy here with the records playing a little bit of music as well. That's really cool. Some of them are in English, some are in Russian. Bit of a mixture of things. There's a stand here with some toy soldiers. And if you might have remember way back, you used to be able to paint these and make them into your own characters. There's some cars as well. Very nice. And just little bits of nostalgia. Cassette tape right there. So really a mixture of things. Looks like there's some brass items here as well. And some cars, some old trucks, and some sunglasses. Maybe in summertime the sunglasses sell well at flea markets. This is more like it, to see all the model cars and trains and buses. This is what we want to see, stuff like this. How nice though. Come to see some transport vehicles and you go home with a teapot. Always nice. Such a mixture of things. There's also a pin trader here with literally thousands of pins from all sorts of eras and times. And check that out right there. There's an Australian flag pin. How cool is that? I wonder how many times he sells the Australian flag pin at an event like this. But I think there's even some transport ones, a lot of militaria related things. Very cool. On the opposite side from all the Moscovich, they've got a whole lot of Ladas. And I think even to this day, there's some of these riding around Russia. You'll see them occasionally in the car parks of the buildings. Even where I live, there's a few of the older ones parked up. I wonder if they've got some of the modern ones somewhere. You can see how many people are here and are just interested in seeing these cars. I would say most people probably rode in one, or maybe their grandparents had one at some point. And it's very neat. They've actually got the plaques on most of them telling you the year that they're from. And I'd say a lot of these are Sunday driving vehicles. Maybe not exactly somebody's daily car, but you never know. There's definitely more than enough Lada still on the road in Russia that they basically just don't want to go away. These are incredible examples of the different models from the different eras as well. I am trying to get a little bit closer, but there is a lot of people here. It's no problems. Lots of people want photos just like I do, and videos, and want to see them. 1976, the year that I was born, right there. This was the model of my birth year. Well, over 40 years old. I'd like to think it was only 30 years old, but a little bit older. What's really interesting is all the younger people that come to these events and want to see the cars and want to get up close with them. And most of them would never have been old enough to even see them or get a chance to ride in one. These are just immaculate models of the different cars. Wow. I know I keep saying it, but it really is something to behold when you see them up close like this. You know, you might see a rusty one downstairs from your apartment, and then you come to a place like this and see them looking absolutely beautiful. Maybe somebody's pressed the horn. Some people have got some old memorabilia from maybe the same year as the car as well, which is pretty interesting. And all the different models of all the different years. There's actually a couple of examples of some ambulances. Probably the best way I can describe them. This is almost like a truck ambulance, maybe made for rural parts of Russia, not necessarily for Moscow. And have a look at this one as well, the big tires. It really feels like you're stepping into a movie when you see these vehicles, because you know they're dating back from the 60s and 70s, and you won't see these on the road at all. These are purely museum pieces. But very nice to see them up close. They have an example of a Russian limousine. Now, I guess we all know them as these longer vehicles, but this is more of a sedan car, but it's over 5 meters long. This thing is just huge. Where would you possibly park this? This would just be a mongrel to park somewhere in Moscow. I mean, how would you take this to the shopping center to find a spot? And this was actually produced and used by the mayor's office as their transport around the city. It's a pretty neat car, but it's just massive. And probably when they had other dignitaries in it, they actually had the spot here for the flag right at the front as well. That's pretty cool. Have a look at this bus back from the 1900s. Yeah, how brave would you be to ride in this bus in winter in Russia? It would be absolutely freezing to sit in the back of that thing when the bus driver turns up to pick you up. From 1905, and it says that it was probably built in St. Petersburg. The actual information card has very limited knowledge about this thing, and they've been restoring it for the last lot of years. But how cold would this be to ride this in winter? It's really nice to come for a walk around this park and this boulevard area and get that view of the university off in the distance, and so many people coming to take photos and to see the different vehicles, and maybe they remember them. Some of these are much older, maybe from our great-grandparents' time, not necessarily in the last lot of years. Everybody wants to get up close with them, and some of them you can get inside and actually sit in them, but of course a lot of these are all museum pieces, so they want to preserve them as best they can and then bring them out for events like this. A lot of people showing a lot of interest. In one of the buses here, there's a guy talking about it. Everybody gathered around listening about the information about it. Very interesting. It's almost impossible to get a photo of some of them. Every time I get up close to one, there's like a crowd of people that seem to follow me right behind. Have a look at this bus right here from 1958. And it's again very much truck-like in its design. It's got the big hooks at the front there to probably be dragged out if it got stuck. And I wonder if the driver was a Dynamo fan. He's got the football team's colors in the window right there. And actually the whole bus is in Dynamo colors. Very interesting. Then there's another open top bus right in front of us. I mean, I can understand in summertime and in spring, this would be very nice to ride in. But come winter time, this would be absolutely brutal to sit in the back and be driven around. Imagine if it was minus 20 degrees and you were sitting in the back of this. I mean, beautiful for summer, but pretty useless for winter in Russia. I wonder if anyone remembers anything like this being on the road. They've also got some small master classes going on, and the young kids are all involved in this. And the best I can understand is it's about road safety and teaching the kids about crossing the road and vehicles. And how neat is this? Kids can just join in. They've got some people here helping the kids, and the kids get to learn something when they leave today. As I keep walking around, they've also got this food truck section and small cafe area. Lots of people relaxing, having a drink and something to eat. And my only gripe with a lot of these things is they're very Western. So you'll see here burgers and all very classic takeaway food. Not overly Russian food. Maybe on a day like today, that's what maybe you want. They've also got a concert going on. Now, they do tend to play them a little bit loud, so I'll walk around fairly briefly. It is very hot today as well. It's probably only about 26 or 27 Celsius, but with humidity, everybody is absolutely sweating. And a lot of people, I don't think, handle the hot weather very well here. Premium food. Very complicated name. They've got some music playing, and everybody taking a little bit of a break from looking at all the cars. Some snacks. So yeah, very interesting. It's a very big area to walk around here, so once you're inside, there's definitely plenty to see. And you can just take your time walking around and checking it out. And then that view back at the university off in the distance. The different food trucks continue as I keep walking around. There's one here called Scooby Dog. And again, it's just interesting how they relate a lot of things to English words and to cartoon characters or video game characters. Angry chicken. Now, the thing is, when it's so hot like this, do you really want a burger or fried chicken? Most people just want a cold drink and to relax. It's another burger place right here. And I think, even myself included, I'm just not hungry. The last couple of days, it's just been so hot that I really just want drinks more than anything. Oh, look at this Suzuki right here. Really hope you're finding this interesting as I take a walk around Sparrow Hill and have a look at all these cars and buses and vehicles. It's really actually quite a different mood here than what it was a couple of months ago with the motorbikes. And today, it's very family orientated. It's very just relaxed. Maybe the fact that it's a little bit further out from the center of Moscow. This park area where you can walk, just so peaceful. And beyond coming to see all the vehicles, you can go for a walk in the woods and further off into the territory. So yeah, I hope you like this type of video on the channel. They also have some motorbikes here, or probably the best way to describe them is scooters. But they've all got the word Riga on them. So I wonder if they're all from Latvia, or maybe somewhere close to there. They're pretty neat bikes. I mean, they're very simple in design. Just a motor, running gear, fuel tank, and that's about it. How cool are these? Anyone seen a Riga motorbike before? I really wish I knew a little bit more about all of these different vehicles and some of the names of them. There is the placards that you can read. There's some pretty amazing looking vehicles, and a lot of these are really truly museum pieces, and some of them are actually from people's private collections as well. I mean, they've all got the number plates on, so they're all road legal and able to be driven. These are pretty cool cars. Again, I'll say what I mentioned earlier, it just feels like you're in a movie set of some kind with all the old models and old cars, and lots of people just very interested to get up close with them and even sit in them as well. How small is this car? This is a Zaporizhia, one of the famous cars from, well, what was Ukraine, what is Ukraine, and part of the USSR. And wow, how cool is it on the roof? They've actually got like a replica of the replica. That's pretty neat. And there isn't just a few cars here. I would probably say there's about 300 or more cars. And this is a completely free event to come to, hosted by the Moscow administration and the Ministry of Transport, I think, is the division that put these on. And they actually invite people to bring vehicles to it and try to group them together by their brands or manufacturers. And you can see going all the way down the street, and then the very famous outline of the university in the distance, and you can see the star at the top which makes up one of the Seven Sisters buildings here in Moscow. Have a look at this green. Wow. This is very nice. And a few of the owners are basically hanging out by their cars. And actually some of them are very nice that you can actually have a chat with them and talk about the vehicles. And then you can actually get some more information about them and learn about them. From 1968. So if anybody watching this does recognize some of these cars, please let me know in the comments. I'm sure I'm probably the most un-car guy here on the internet. Then I come to these events and see all these different vehicles, and I'm probably seeing some of probably the rarer vehicles on the roads in Russia, and I probably don't even know it as I'm walking around them. Just some of them are just in pristine condition and polished to within an inch of their life. I'm sure there's some very proud owners of some of these vehicles. That's pretty neat. They've actually got their logo here. I think this might be the car museum at Vorobyovy. Maybe that's a part of that. There is a museum that you can go to there as well. There's also a few buses here at the end, and lots of people sitting inside. And it's not hot enough outside the bus today, and everybody wants to jump on board. Pretty sure a lot of these didn't have air conditioning back in the day. And everybody wants to go sit inside them and actually get as close as possible. And I really wonder where you see people taking photos with them. Maybe they were drivers, or they caught these buses to school back in the day. Well, from here you can really get an idea of how many people are here looking back down the road. Quite a lot of people now. This is running all day today, so until I think about 7 or 8 p.m. So lots of chances for everyone to come out and have a look. There's a few more examples of Moskvich here, and I'm just waiting for the comments about everybody telling me how I say the word and I mispronounce the name of these vehicles. And I'm very curious with a lot of the owners of these cars what they think of the current model Moskvich that's on the road. And being that these were from the same factory and now they're producing this new model, what they think. I think some of them would be a little bit mortified by the fact that they're not entirely Russian made and produced cars. What's going on? What's this German car doing here on the streets of Moscow? Mercedes right here. My uncle had a green model very similar to this back in Australia. He had it for quite a lot of years and it sat on his driveway and he very rarely rode it. But the Germans are also here in Moscow, parked up right on the street. It's actually a coupe version. This is a pretty neat car. Imagine how much this cost back in the day when it came out. The roof down, riding around Moscow. Wow. There's also a Subaru here at this rally, and it's got the late great Colin McRae's name right on the side. And I wonder at some point maybe he drove this, or maybe this is a replica and somebody just has an absolute passion for Subarus and he's put all the stickers on there. How cool is that? Rally New Zealand right on the side. Wow, beautiful interior as well. But how neat is that with all the stickers? A lot of these wouldn't be allowed nowadays. being that some of them are branded for tobacco companies. But great looking car. I think there's a few other, I guess you would call them imported cars here. I really don't know some of these models, but really nice either way. And check this thing out with the gull-wing doors on it. It's a very tiny car. The Auto Zam AZ1. That's pretty cool. It's so small as well. Toyota Serra. So I wonder if these cars were just perhaps not imported to Russia, or there was very few of them. And these are all perhaps museum pieces now. A lot of the cars that we've seen have all got license plates on them. So they were all very much drivable cars. These are all different models of Toyota. It's got a different badge on the front. There's even a Mitsubishi over here. The Galant from 1980. Now, my very first car was a Mitsubishi Galant, but I think mine was 1970 or so. Wasn't as modern looking as this. And I'm sure my dad will remember the day when I crashed it after not long getting my license. Beautiful car that my dad just cherished, and then I wrecked it. Perhaps this end of the exposition is with all of the foreign cars, or at least imported cars to Russia. Is this a Ford Bronco, I wonder? It's a huge looking vehicle. Luckily in Russia, petrol is very cheap. It is a Ford Bronco, and at least it's realistic that you can afford to drive it on the roads in Russia versus what the fuel prices are in America. How cool is that? Yeah, there's lots of people down at this end. And again, I wish I knew more about all these models of cars. And I hope everyone's enjoying the video for what it is. Walking around here on Sparrow Hill and having a look at this retro car rally. Look at the Jeep. That's pretty cool. And there's some really very old vehicles. A sidecar motorbike right here. And have a look, I think this is maybe an ice cream truck. The one behind it, a scooter. It's pretty interesting. There's lots of people at this end. Maybe everybody wants to see all of these different models. Very cool. And even the old petrol barrels are right there. That's pretty cool. They also even have one of the police car models of Lada. And you actually quite often see these in some of the regional areas at the police stations, generally as a bit of a museum piece out the front of the building. And there's a lot of towns, definitely outside of Moscow, where you'll see them. And they're not in operation now, but you can definitely find them. Look at this combi van. How bright is the paint on that? Wow. That's a pretty neat looking combi. So I think some of these are definitely privately owned vehicles. And then there is quite a lot of these that are from the actual motor museum here in Moscow. Another German car on the road. All these German vehicles taking over the streets of Moscow. I've fairly well walked around most of the vehicles that are here and checked them all out. It is incredibly hot, and I don't know how most of these people walking around are handling the heat. Even myself, coming from a hot country like Australia, this is not an enjoyable day. And there's not that much shade here either. This couple of cars right here, they really could just be parked here, not necessarily in the actual motor rally. You do see a lot of Ladas on the road, but maybe not necessarily as many older models like this. But you can definitely see them. Probably the further you go away from Moscow, the more likely you are to find the older models. And these Moscovich, beautiful. Just that steel and chrome bumper, the chrome handles for the doors. They just don't make them like this now, not at all. As I make my way out of the car rally here on Sparrow Hill, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's not too long and you get a bit of a sense of what it's like going for a walk in a park in Moscow on a summer's day like today. I mean, it's very hot. Even I'm struggling a little. I had to stop a couple of times for a drink. If you like this type of video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. Would you like me to come to more of these park events throughout Moscow? They've got them pretty much every weekend that you can attend. So there's more than enough things that I can find to do to make videos about. Post a comment. Maybe you recognize the model of car or bus from this event. Maybe even timestamp it, so that I can go back and look at which model you're pointing out. That'll be a little bit more interesting, and I can even comment on those that you've time-stamped for me. If you've made it to the very end of the video, you're part of the Sparrow Hill gang. And this is Sparrow Hill, where I am here on the grounds of Moscow State University, which is literally right in front of me in this direction. Now, if you want to follow me on Telegram, click this link. If you want to watch an old video on the channel, click this link. You can actually have a look at another video on the channel you've not seen before. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.